The Godfather recently celebrated its 45-year anniversary. It's hard to believe we've never done an episode on it, but to be honest, we really just need a bit of a palate cleanser after that last episode on Fast and Furious. So here are 7 things you didn't know about The Godfather. Probably.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The Godfather is dark. I'm not just talking about the subject matter. The actual film is at times literally dark, particularly in these interior scenes with Marlon Brando. The cinematographer Gordon Willis was even named the Prince of Darkness because of his work on The Godfather. But most people don't know that the minimal lighting wasn't done only to create a mood. They were also trying to conceal the heavy makeup that Marlon Brando had to wear. Brando sat through 3 hours of makeup each day, which included a dental prosthetic and resin plumpers to create Don Corleone's jawline. By the way, Marlon Brando wasn't the only one wearing fake teeth. James Caan's fangs were made more prominent with dental prosthetics applied with a quick setting acrylic. Kind of seems like a waste of time since you can't even tell, but it's still kind of cool, I guess. Boom, bonus thing you didn't know. Boom, moving on.
What the hell is this?
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
Sonny's fangs are just one of the many details that the production team came up with to make the world of the film as rich as it is. Another is the wooden bumpers on so many of the cars. Because of World War II, many car owners removed their chrome bumpers and turned them in to help with the war. The chrome bumpers were replaced with wooden ones, and it took a long time for many of them to be switched back to metal after the war ended. And since The Godfather takes place in the 1940s and 50s, the wood bumpers are pretty accurate, which actually segues us perfectly into thing number 3. The Godfather was made in the 70s, but it's a period piece that takes place some 2 to 3 decades before that. But it almost didn't happen that way. Originally, Paramount wanted The Godfather to be a present-day, meaning a 1970s, gangster movie set in Kansas that they would make on the cheap for around $2.5 million. Paramount was broke at the time and just didn't want to invest in a period piece. At Francis Ford Coppola's insistence, Mario Puzo tossed out his original script, which had The Godfather as the low-budget 70s mobster shoot-'em-up that Paramount wanted. Coppola revamped the story, got the studio to put up a $6.5 million budget, and went on to make one of the most iconic films of all time. Not that it was easy. Shh, that's a tease for our next thing. Francis Ford Coppola was under threat of being fired nearly the entire time he was making The Godfather. The studio butted heads with him on almost every decision. For one, they essentially vetoed casting Marlon Brando as Don Corleone until Coppola came to Marlon Brando's home to film a screen test that was impressive enough to finally convince the suits that Brando was their guy. The studio was also against casting Al Pacino as Michael. They were pushing hard for Robert Redford or Ryan O'Neal. Martin Sheen did a screen test, and they even had James Caan read for the part, but Coppola was unrelenting in keeping Pacino at the top of his list. Paramount also believed that Coppola was going over budget and over schedule with frivolous production expenses. Though, by the time the film wrapped, he was both under budget and ahead of schedule. Coppola saved his job by reshooting some key scenes that the studio didn't like and adding in this fight scene to silence their fears that the movie lacked action. He also wound up firing his assistant director, who he suspected had been bad-mouthing him to Paramount. Lastly, it probably helped that Coppola won a freaking Oscar for writing Patton while all of this Godfather drama was going on. Here's a thing that reiterates just how f***ed up a place Hollywood is. Morgana King played Mama Corleone to Sonny, Michael, and Fredo. The thing is, she's only 10 years older than James Caan and Al Pacino and only 5 years older than John Cazale was. R.I.P. 5 to 10 years older playing their mom. Yeah, just let that sink in while we move on to our next thing. You might be surprised to hear who put this crime montage together. It was this one guy you may have heard of before named George Lucas. Coppola and Lucas are friends from way back. Coppola even executive produced THX 1138. Well, the year after that, Lucas was an uncredited assistant on The Godfather. Lucas did it mainly as a way to thank Coppola for helping him get American Graffiti funded, and he was tasked with putting together this footage, sometimes called the mattress sequence by hardcore Godfather fans. Lucas used photos from real-life crime scenes in the montage. For example, this is Frank the Enforcer Nitti, who was Al Capone's top guy and who actually wasn't murdered but committed suicide by shooting himself. Jumping back to George Lucas's work on the film as a whole, he gave Coppola a small but important note. For this part, with the looming assassination attempt at the hospital, Coppola neglected to get enough footage for this critical moment with the sound of the footsteps in the hallway. Lucas suggested that Coppola just repurpose the ends of any shots of the hallways where the actors had already left and cleared the frame. Lucas and Coppola scrubbed through all of the footage they had in the can and found these all too important seconds of empty hallway to be able to create this brilliant moment of dread in the sequence. Did I say brilliant moment? Sorry, guys. Movie list is next week. Tasty Hoots, Hot Cans, Tucci Palooza. Oh, okay. I feel better. Last thing.
Aspetta, Fredo. I'm gonna buy some fruit.
Okay, Bob.
We're going to wrap this up by busting a bit of a Godfather myth. A lot of people have pointed out that oranges appear throughout the film as a way to foreshadow an impending death. Well, even though that may be true, it's only true retroactively. The oranges and their proximity to the deaths in the film is little more than a coincidence. The production designer Dean Tavoularis added oranges to the sets because the sets were just kind of drab. He liked using oranges as a pop of color, but no one involved with the film ever premeditated using them as a harbinger of death. It just kind of worked out that way, and the fan theories took on a life of their own. I guess they should have switched up those oranges with some papayas or kumquats or something. We have barely scratched the surface on all of the Godfather things we have up our sleeve. For example, we didn't even mention that this baby in the famous baptism scene is actually Sofia Coppola. So if you guys want a part 2, let us know. And or if you want us to do a part 2 on the Godfather part 2, sound off. Unlike Tucci Palooza, we'll actually do it. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to CineFix for more true-ish things about movies and sometimes oranges that don't really mean anything right here on Things You Didn't Know.